Hi there. Wow, I sure love seeing a big giant picture of my face on the screen. That's great. Tēnā koutou katoa. Hello, everyone. I'm Stephen Thompson, and I currently work remotely for the game merch company Fangamer, mainly handling their Japan side projects in partnership, but also serving as the company's unofficial Oceania representative because I am the only one in the Southern Hemisphere. I have a quick 15-minute talk about making merch, namely why and how you should consider it as part of your development process for any game that you plan to bring to market as soon as you set a release date and for a project of any scale. It's going to be pretty quick in general, and I won't have time for questions at the end, but you are, of course, welcome to ask me questions afterwards, wherever you find me, through email and stuff like that. My hope for your takeaway is that you will, A, get thinking about merch early on, not after the fact, and B, you'll see that it's actually pretty doable. So let's jump right into that. Oh, I am the one who jumps right into that. Hey. So actually, first, quick disclaimer, which probably you all are perfectly aware of. I'll just say in case that I am not able to discuss Fangamer's specific agreements and processes with other partners as part of our confidentiality with them, but can answer plenty of general questions to the best of my ability about the overall process. I'm also unable to propose your awesome Undertale AU idea to Toby Fox, or tell you what he looks like under the dog mask, but I can say that he is very nice and very cool. So, real quick about me, because I'm kind of, always working at home and not out and about in the industry all the time. So I grew up and graduated in Florida in the States. Went on to spend 5 years in Japan working as a teacher, magazine producer, tourism info writer, and translator. And actually, if you accessed any official tourism info about the Tokyo area during trips there, or looked for accommodation or restaurants or things like that, you may have read something that I wrote or prepared. I was working in Wellington as a freelancer, doing things like market research for the 2017 Power Rangers movie, until I heard from my partner that the Fangamer wanted to open an overseas office in Japan, and so they kindly and very graciously recommended me for that. And I went over there to very literally set it up, including water blasting the floors and getting suited up right after that to go to meetings with like customs and various import type companies and things. So it was quite an experience. I was traveling back and forth to Japan as part of that business, but that's on hold for the moment. So for the moment, I'm just here in Wellington trying to support the community here the same way that I've been supporting it in Japan. So if you know Fangamer at all, it's probably from Undertale, Hollow Knight, or Stardew Valley, which are our biggest merch lineups and are all games that we currently publish physical editions for. However, we also create official merch for titles like Persona, Monster Hunter, the Souls series, Katamari Damacy, and tons of well-loved indies like Celeste, Valhalla, A Short Hike, and of course, the worldwide runaway smash hit, Frog Detective. I do also just want to say, real quick, and if I could get my notes scrolled down, perhaps. Yeah, cheers. That we recently launched, that's right, the Switch physicals for the hand-drawn, all-alligator, neo-noir title Later Alligator, and it is real dang charming if you haven't played it. It comes from the creator of Batman Piderman, if you want to go way back to Flash animation stuff. And if you won at last night's quiz, I hope you enjoyed the prizes that Fangamer US so kindly provided. I was really happy to be able to arrange those. If you didn't, we do offer shipping to New Zealand. So. That ends the official Fangamer plug section of my talk, but I can honestly say that it's a company of people who love supporting game creators and making cool stuff that they themselves want, and I will sometime eventually do my best to get cheaper shipping here to New Zealand. Last, before we continue, a quick shout out to Mary Guo, a local Wellington artist who provided the super cute Hollow Knight art that was on the cards given out at last night's quiz. So if you did receive one of those at the door, that was a local artist, and she does exhibitions here in town, so be sure to support her if you see her around. So let's get into the meat of things and tackle the first part. Why should you design with merch in mind at even the earliest stages of development? So a couple of reasons. First off, it's just very cool. It's really great to take something that you've spent so much time and effort and energy and thought on and just bring it into the real world to have something that you can hold. And I think anyone who has shipped a game that eventually became physical in some way or even printed out team shirts or anything like that really understands that there's just kind of a great feeling around that. And second, and this is kind of the unromantic, business-driven aspect of things, but capitalism is a nightmare that we're all, an unwilling part of. So merchandise provides an extra marketing channel for your game and is a generally fun kind of aspect of promotion to work on. And that marketing extends past just peddling your officially licensed wares around, because it happens each time someone talks about the shirt they're wearing, the pin on their bag, the mug they set out, whatever it may be, and the cool game that it comes from. As for revenue, that ties into my next point, which is that if your game gets any degree of popularity around release, like starting to see fan art on Twitter popularity, then there's a high chance that folks will start wanting to buy stuff from the game. And if something doesn't exist, then someone might just go make something real quick from your key art and toss it up on Redbubble or what have you. And not only does that probably not represent what you want for your game, but it doesn't offer you any money for the use of your assets and IP, and again, that time and energy that you put into it. This has happened recently with some other projects and things that kind of get the ball rolling a bit slowly on it, and it's always kind of difficult to see because you want to have a hand in that, you want to have control over what's happening with that, the things about your game that are going out there. And on to my last point. Good design equals good merch. So the kind of two main core things that I think about that is that merch comes from fans, or merch that fans want, comes from moments that you enjoyed or remember. And so designing through the process with merch in mind can help focus on delivering these moments. That is, making sure that the game contains these moments that will be taken away is good design both in a merch sense and in a game sense. So in my experience, I've really come to sort of feel like this, and I've realized that it's a really strong part of it. That the stuff that is fun to make merch for, the stuff that people want to buy in terms of physical merchandise, tends to be connected to those moments in games. So why should you consider merch during dev? Because you want your players to take something away from the game. And there is no more literal way to take something away from the game than this. If there's a part of your game that's good enough for even one person to seek out and spend even more money after they've played it on a memento that reminds them of the time they spent with it, then that's a good part of your game. So I say that you should design not only with the intention and direction of eventual shelf appeal for a hypothetical piece of merchandise, but with the full confidence that people who play what you make will want to buy things related to your game after the fact. Your game may not blow up to the degree that it gets a line of action figures distributed worldwide, but even if there's 50 people who want a pin or a shirt or some stickers, that is still, in my opinion, extremely cool. And it's worthwhile and fascinating, and it's this connection between you and the players, and it's something that persists even after they've played the game. So put another way, if a character or moment in your game is so good that someone would want to literally wear it on their body out in public, then I think you've done well. So, and on the contrary, if someone wouldn't want to take a free sticker of it on a show floor booth, then that's maybe equally telling. So. We express those things through what we buy and what we wear and what we take out and what we show to other people. So here's how good game design can lead to good merch in concrete terms based on our experience creating merch that draws from inspiration for these types of moments. Strong character designs can make for strong plush, figures, and pin designs, things that rely heavily on recognizable characters. So here's an example, just to get it out of the way, from Undertale. Characters with unique and recognizable silhouettes, traits, and personalities that come through visually in their design lead to physical objects that someone wants to keep on their couch, their desk, or attached to their bag. They want to go and talk about this character and what they did in the story. So aside from maybe the soundtrack, character merch for Undertale are consistently our best sellers, and it's not hard to imagine why, given that the core focus of the game is memorable characters and encounters with those characters. These are originally pretty simple sprites for anyone who's played the game, and through Temmie Chang's really distinct character designs for basically every NPC in the game, you can bring them out into all of these different types of fan art and merch designs, and it's because they're so full of personality in such a simple way that we're able to make things that other people are able to make things, and I think that's a major strength that the game had for it. So. Strong world design can make for strong apparel, accessory, and poster designs. So the example here that I'll go with is Stardew Valley. Worlds that have strong visual elements, iconic items, memorable atmospheres, recognizable locations can lead to merch that people want to wear on a shirt, reference in a mug, or hang on their wall as poster art. They want to, in some way, inhabit that world, to remain in that world even when they're not playing it. So what Stardew Valley has, in addition to a lovable cast of marriageable characters, like Leia, who is the best and obvious choice for marriage, just gonna put that out there, is atmosphere. It has a relaxing escape feeling, this kind of vibe of being in nature and a community, and it was designed very much on purpose that way, to present that feeling to the players. So you see, in not only the merch that we make, but in crafts and arts that fans make, that sense of place, of being in the town making cute needlepoint while tending to your chickens. So, strong audio design can make for strong soundtracks, which is, perhaps a bit of an obvious statement, but it's not just about having super catchy tracks playing on loop throughout. What we always see people talk about when they talk about the soundtracks they buy and when they leave reviews or write about it on Twitter is the specific moments or characters that those tracks are connected to and what's happening in the game when that music is playing. So again, there are things that lead to not just I'm buying this for myself because I want to buy something, but I'm buying this so that I can share it, so that I can remember a part of this game. Obviously, Celeste tracks do just plain slap super hard. No one here's denying that. Lena Raine composed like 50-plus tracks of straight-up bangers. It's a great soundtrack. Even if you haven't played the game, just look it up, Bandcamp, fantastic. But the songs that I keep coming back to as someone who played the game, and the songs that I talk about and share, are the ones from pivotal and memorable moments in the game's story. Tracks that are tied strongly to a feeling or a memory I hold from that experience playing. Like, without going into any spoilers, just everything from the Final Ascent. I go back and listen to those songs, and I'm like right back there in that experience, and I think that holds very true for music. So those feelings and moments are what inform the design of the physical soundtracks, which actually here, we're not Fangamer, but designed by the good folks at Ship to Shore, Phono Co. in New York. We do carry them on Fangamer, but wherever you can get them, I highly recommend them. So, games that have all of those, completely unforgettable. Like if you have strong areas in all of those, great stuff. So it probably hasn't escaped your notice that any of those 3 games I used as examples could be used as examples for any of those 3 type factors. Stardew Valley has memorable characters, Celeste has very distinct world building, and Undertale, of course, has a very famous soundtrack. So strong audio-visual identities translate into strong marketing and customer appeal in crowded markets. And so designing with merch in mind means designing with the identity of your game in mind and the takeaway that you want people to have. So I don't think it's a coincidence that those games I used as examples share those qualities and are easy to make merch for, or to make fan art for, or to make anything for. So that's all fine and good, but how do you actually go about making stuff? And I'm going to go very quickly into it, but you're, of course, welcome to ask me more about this. So the first overall direction will be how you go about doing it, and kind of scaling up on the list there from most to least involved on your part. And this is also assuming that you're the one making these decisions, that your team is the one making these decisions, and not a publisher, on which note I would heavily recommend, specifically if you can, when going into a publisher agreement, maintaining merchandising and soundtrack rights, or at least maintaining the right to approvals and sort of directorship over that if you're going to kind of do it in hand with a publisher. So the first option, doing it yourself. The route that most indies go, or at least plan on going until they kind of get into the thick of it. This way, it does work at small scales, merch that you can order low quantities of and in amounts that you can handle shipping out on your own. I think for a lot of teams that are already busy developing, that's in the tens of items kind of thing. It can get real big real quick. On the plus side, you absolutely do get full control of what you make. You can charge what you want and sell it where you want. But also, of course, you're doing and paying for every part of that process, and you're putting all of the time and effort into it. So if you don't have any experience in that field, in making or customer service or shipping, then you're kind of flying blind and kind of wind up reinventing the wheel in a lot of cases. You also won't have access to manufacturing and shipping prices that dedicated merch companies get, and the same thing, wherever it is that you try to go and make merch, it's just the same as anyone who's trying to order stuff, and doesn't matter if you're the IP holder or not. So the overall cost can be high comparatively to some of the other methods. Then you have printing on demand. which are your Redbubbles, cafe presses, threadlesses, etc., where you make a design and it's automatically placed on like 50 different items, shirts and hats and snowboards and cups and just any number of things. And anyone can set one of these up and upload designs to sell, so that does include your studio or you just working on your game. But also anyone can set one of these up and upload images to sell, meaning that there's plenty of knockoffs that are also on these sites and things, and it can kind of be in the midst of that, whatever it is that you make. It is pretty hassle-free, and royalty percentages are generally decent, actually, but it can be hard to make significant revenue amongst a sea of choices, and the overall marketing potential is kind of low, again, because it's mixed in with things that people are making for whatever it is that they want to make. And quality-wise, it probably won't surprise you that they're about bad to average in terms of quality, about the warehouse kind of level, which is fine. I've bought stuff through official artists like Redbubbles and stuff, and it's just because I liked that thing, so I don't have any issue with it. And then the last sort of option is licensing to a third-party dedicated merch company. So there's working with a company like Fangamer or a company not like Fangamer. I'm not here to force you. But there is a ton of great folks out there with companies that focus exclusively on making merchandise in hand with developers and respecting those developers and collaborating with them a whole bunch all over the world. So check them all out if you're considering partnering up like this, if you've bought from a place before, if you've seen stuff go out, if you've heard good things. Yeah, definitely just bring that into consideration. So a merch company in general will pitch ideas to you or make them collaboratively with you and take on the bulk of the production and shipping logistics with your input and oversight, which is one of those benefits that you have in Redbubble. So as an added bonus, because it's in their interest as well to sell the things that they make, they'll also promote your game for you and to as many people as they can and try to make it as successful as they can, because it's in just everyone's best interest to do so. And of course, a different company taking on the work and the associated cost and risk means that there'll be a bigger portion of the revenue that they will ask for, and they will also primarily be making the decisions based around like concrete production and things of that nature, just based on their experience and based on their own sort of resources. And it also means that, for better or worse, hopefully for the better, you've hitched your reputation to theirs, to a different company. And so it's a closer working relationship that's built on trust, communication, collaboration, those sorts of things. So, ideally, it works out well. So, what can you actually make and how? Time-wise, I, again, can't go super deep here, but in general, you have three main factors to consider when making stuff. This is stuff that Fangamer considers. This is stuff that you would consider. It's pretty much the basic things that go in, so they determine what's possible. The first hurdle is a big one, and not often thought about, which is minimum order quantities, also called MOQs. And these are things like figures where it's not feasible to make or sell anything less than like 1,000. So unless you have confidence that you can get those out there and make your money back, they are a difficult thing to pursue. And then, plush toys, you can have a couple of hundreds, and then things like stickers and posters or whatever, you can just, print down at warehouse stationery or whatever. So the next factor that goes into it is initial costs, which come into play for items that either require a mold, like, again, figures and metal and plastic items like keychains, or things that require screens like shirts. So that will determine how much you're going to have to spend up front, and how much you need to sell in a certain amount of time to recoup that and start getting it into money back into your pocket. So, and the last is production timelines, which includes whatever time you spend designing and ordering the thing, plus their actual quoted manufacturing and shipping timeline, and also however long it takes to actually get it out in front of customers at an event or online or something. So which is all to say that merch where these three factors are low are going to be easier to make for you, for us, for any company, and factors that are all high for this are going to be more difficult and require more investment to make of time and energy and all that. Quick example maths, which I'm not going to break down the algebra of this or anything, and I know everyone loves maths in the morning. But so say you want to make something, hypothetical merch called X, you find a place that can make them how you want, but you have to order at least 300, it'll cost you $10. So item X also needs a mold to make, which costs $1,000 to set up just to make the very first sample. Also, from whatever time you give them the design files to when they'll be delivered will take 3 months, provided that that first sample is completely correct. You have no changes. You don't need to like remake it or anything. So you're spending, in this hypothetical situation, $4,000 when you order, and then 3 months later, we'll need to sell at least 150 of what you ordered at a price of $30 to make some profit and get paid for your own time and work. So that's a rough example, of course, and it's a thing where if you work with a separate merch company, or if you work with a print-on-demand kind of service that is doing all of that behind the scenes, then they'll think about it instead of you, and it'll be part of their overall decision and sort of pitching and approvals process. So how does that work specifically for types of merch and what you should consider making based on your own time and resources? So we have stickers, posted, and printed items. Like I mentioned, you can usually make those at a print shop. They tend to have low minimums, and you can make them quite quickly. A lot of flexibility, low barrier for purchase. Pins and buttons, slightly higher minimums, can maybe make them locally. They're quick to make. Design specs are specific to them, and people just like to collect them, so you might have people who buy them even if they're not a fan of your game. This is kind of Fangamer specialty, shirts and simple prints. Minimums vary depending on the method. Can make locally, and you should if you can. Pretty quick. You can reuse designs, and it does require your own sort of like fashion sense and a separate design process to just illustrations. Soundtracks and CDs. CDs have lower minimums, vinyls have higher ones and take longer. You have longer turnarounds, especially on vinyl. A lot of checking and mastering, that sort of sound engineering process, and it uses an asset that you already have, which is your game's music. Though plush have higher minimums depending, a lot of back and forth sampling, you need a good supplier. They're a cool rep of your game's characters, and they are very satisfying to make. As was the case with Grace Bruxner and Frog Detective, who went through actually both sides of it, making the plushes on her own and then making them again with Fangamer. She wrote a really, really wonderful article that's up on Medium called Making Merch for Your Indie Game that I highly recommend checking out because she goes really into in-depth about how she did it on her own. Figures, again, please do not. There's so much time, higher minimums, higher startup costs. They take forever, and any edits and sampling, they just increase cost. So if you want a figure just for your office, commission a 3D printer, and a couple $100, make one. So that was a whole bunch. Sorry about that. Any questions, anytime, just hit me up here or email at steven@fangamer.com. So thank you very much.